Babies come from mommy's tummy, the end. Whoa, look at this car.
How does the baby get into the mommy's tummy?
Okay, I see that you want a complete explanation. The baby gets into mommy's tummy because that's where the seed is planted. Oh, look, it's 3 o'clock. Who wants to go to the toy store?
I do.
I'm ready.
Right after you tell me how the seed gets into the mommy's tummy.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history. I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what is the trope we're talking about tonight?
Rapid aging children.
Yes, it's a growing problem. We need more awareness of this condition.
My best friend's kids are driving now. How the hell did that happen?
So, the version of this condition that we're talking about is that phenomenon that always seems to happen in sitcoms where somebody has a baby and then at the start of the next season...
They're in pre-K.
Yes, they are 3, 4, 5 years older than they used to be.
Five is that sweet spot. A lot of times you see the aging up to 5.
Yeah.
Because now they're talking, they have personalities. You can get a 7-year-old kid to play a 5-year-old kid.
Yeah, we can get into some of the reasoning for this. But yeah, this happened all the time. Of course, as usual, we'll be talking about 4 examples of this. Some of the ones we're not going to cover that I remember are the Fresh Prince. There was a storyline deep into that series.
It's always late, right?
Yeah.
It's always the kids who the series sort of centered around are grown, and they've the youngest ones are the teenagers, but they burned all their teenager stories with the older ones.
Exactly, and they still want a little kid on the show. So yes, you have Aunt Viv getting pregnant, and then next season the kid is played by the same kid that played Buckwheat in the 1990s Little Rascals remake. Right. Mm-hmm. He's walking, talking. He's 5, 6 years old. This happens all the time. What are our shows? What are the ones we watched?
All right. We watched Family Ties Season 5, Episode 1, Be True to Your Preschool. Growing Pains, Season 6, Episode 13, The World According to Chrissie. Step by Step, Season 6, Episode 19, The Facts of Life, and Modern Family, Season 3, Episode 13, Little Bo Bleep.
Yeah, so you kind of hinted at this already. If we're trying to form a hypothesis about why these sitcom producers feel the need to have a baby and then always try to pull this switcheroo of mysteriously aging them up a few years, I think it's pretty obvious. The things on either side of early childhood are very desirable to sitcom writers. We like stories about pregnancy for all kinds of reasons, whether it's a first baby, a new baby. There's just lots of rites of passage and all kinds of family upheaval going into that.
Yes.
And we like having little kids on the set. Cindy Brady or the Beaver or whoever. Sometimes they're the main one, sometimes they're ancillary, but we like having little kids. But to put it bluntly, you don't want cast members in diapers, right? You don't want 1, 2, 3-year-old kids who are not potty trained, who certainly can't read. It's just a liability to have them.
Well, and there's some examples where it's done right.
Oh, definitely.
You got to think about Full House.
Well, I was just going to say that is the example.
But they did end up aging up the twins,
but that was the
were
one.
Jesse and
yes,
Becky's
they
twins.
pulled this maneuver on Nikki and Alex. But
yes.
What's so impressive about Full House is that they threw down the gauntlet. They're like, we're casting these Olsen twins. They're 18 months old, or however old they were.
They got lucky,
but they sucked it up. They went into it like, we will have cast members in diapers. We will have cast members that are years away from being able to read, and they just made made that.
Or talk. And by the way...
Well, she could always talk. She said little fragments of things that cracked everybody up.
Not at the very beginning. Not that, like, first season, right? Like,
I think she had phrases. She was 2 years old. She had phrases, little bits.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. And they got really lucky that these babies that they cast were then capable of being cute little kids when they got to be the cute little kids that they were.
Or you could say these creatures that they created by being born into this world and knew nothing outside of this TV network thing.
Because, I mean, look, Modern Family did the same thing. They committed to having these kids, all the kids in all three of the families, grow up.
Yeah.
And what happened was the twins that played Lily as a baby were hard to work with.
Well, yes.
And they were growing up and they were getting into the toddler age and they were becoming a problem on set and making it hard to get the shoot done in time. And that's when the decision was made to age up Lily.
Definitely. And I'm sure even if the kids aren't particularly troublesome, that's always the case. That first season where they have their babies, you're cast, first of all, when they're infants, a lot of the story is done through trickery. The babies are more of a plot
Half
point.
The time they're not even
they're not
really
on
there.
camera. You're doing the Monica and Chandler thing, having them have fake little toy babies in their arms.
Sure, but that I think is more for just like child labor laws and ease of shooting and all sorts of things.
But insofar as you do have infants on your show, whatever casting process you're doing, you're basically auditioning the family. You're finding a parent that's okay with having this and people who seem, and then once the kid's a little bit older, now you're looking for an actor. Now the whole thing changes. You need people like little Chrissie who's going to carry a whole episode despite only being 5 years old. And so, there's just no way of knowing that when you're casting a 6-month-old
No, you
baby.
absolutely don't.
So,
which is to say, like, the rapid aging syndrome, as it's known out there in the internet world, the soap opera rapid aging syndrome, because this kind of, the process sort of gets its start in soap operas. They would do this all the time. They would have these like long, bringing people back to life, long lost, whatever. And then age jumps would just happen because they would want to move stories forward. And so your main like older adult characters stay the same age, but the kids get older. And there isn't that much difference in, 2 to 3 years in what you and I look like as grown-ups.
Oh, yeah.
As there is with the kids. Where it gets a little bit tricky is like with Family Ties. So Family Ties, you've got the 3 older kids. They've been trying with all their might to keep the youngest, Jennifer, young. This poor little girl she's clearly 16 years old, playing a 13-year-old. In fact, she's one of these actors that her parents, or maybe even she, changed her birth date. And it wasn't until some lawsuit got filed later on down the road that anybody found out that her real birth date is actually like 4 years before she'd been saying it was.
Yeah, she's got multiple problems. Because like you said, she's playing a little younger, but only so much. Because it is, it's just like with all these shows.
But also she's in that age. She's like 16 playing 13. Yeah. And she is of that age where, number one, you don't look 13 when you're 16 for the most part. Some people do. But she didn't. And second of all, she didn't want to look 13. So they're like, okay, fine. You've got big hair. Now you look like Tanya Harding.
Yeah, that's the thing. She has the extra problem of she just turned out to be a large person.
Right.
And Michael J. Fox is a tiny person.
Yes.
And so you have this issue now where just everything about her, like she is literally big bones. Like she just has this sort of like sturdy structure as she's going through adolescence. And Michael J. Fox is not getting any less slight and shrimpy. And so now she's towering over him. Yeah. What I will say though about Jennifer, we talked about how she's obviously part of the OG cast of Family Ties. She was in the original Cindy Brady slot.
Yeah.
Right. she, for me, has always been a problem.
By the way, at the time, was like 10 playing about 7.
Yeah,
that's an issue.
That's what I was trying to say, is that, yes, they get away with that to an extent, but
Right.
also with kids, there's only so much they can do. They wear their age on their sleeves.
Exactly.
But so she was always in that slot, and in my opinion, she was always a problem. Just even for her age in those first seasons, I would always remark she was pretty bad. And as we've been watching Family Ties just for fun, and we got to, in the second or third season, the first attempts to really give her own proper storyline as she's starting to get a little older. And I'm happy to say she handled it well.
Yeah,
you know,
she
that's
did.
not the episode we're talking about here, but Jennifer has started to clean up her act. I don't know if they took her to acting lessons or whatever it is, but she is much easier to take, I think, in these middle seasons. And so we're going to get what we're actually here to talk about. This episode of Family Ties is going to be about the new little kid, Andy.
That's right. So Andrew was born kind of, I think, sort of midway through season 3-ish, and then season 4, maybe toward, yes, and then season 4, he's a baby. So we've got baby Andy, and we have all the storylines that come with having a new baby in the house, right?
Yeah.
Now the kids' chores are all changing. Well, this is episode 1 of season 5, and they decided, we've had enough baby. Everything's sorted out. The kids have all done their thing of like taking different roles in helping to raise this new baby because the parents are busy. Yeah. And it is so interesting to me how much this child is like raised by committee and how all the older siblings are just like expected to do all these different things that would
That's
normally
how
be
I would
the parents.
imagine. Yes, we did not have children born, 20 years after the other children in my family. But this, you hear about this with families like this. Yeah, I was
Yes.
raised by my siblings because I was much younger.
Yes.
So yeah, that all tracks.
Yeah. And so you've got Andrew, and he is now going to be 5 years old. He was aged from an infant to about a 5-year-old. So he's in pre-K. He's not quite in kindergarten yet. And this episode is all about him going to his new preschool, and Alex, who has sort of, he really wants to take on the role of dad.
Yeah, well, he's excited to finally have a brother, right? This is, of course,
Yes.
This has been a show about a 3-child household, Alex and his 2 sisters. Now that we're into season 5, I've noticed we don't get the origin story in the theme sequence anymore, the
Right.
sort of slideshow, because everybody knows by now the premise of Family Ties is Alex is a Reaganite. He's a
Yes.
staunch conservative. His parents are hippies. So this is the fun Family Ties angle on this, is that Alex is excited to have a brother, partially just to have a brother, but also because he wants to
gonna
turn
raise
him
him
into
in his image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so our very first shot of this new incarnation of Andy, the little kid, is going to be he walks into the kitchen dressed basically identically to Alex in his little young Republican outfit, toting a briefcase.
Yep. Gray suit, like
Yep.
sort of tweedy looking, a sweater vest and a tie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all, that's the joke. This is the kind of thing we would get in Different Strokes, just the sight gag of Arnold walking in dressed like whatever.
Yep.
This is similar to another trope we covered the first day of school. Everybody is abuzz because everyone's starting school.
Right.
We get Alex is teasing Mallory because she's starting school at Grant College. And it's similar to in The Social Network when Mark Zuckerberg, played by Jesse Eisenberg, keeps telling Rooney Mara, stop saying you have to study. And she goes, why? Because you go to BU, and that's Alex's same thing. You don't need to worry about anything. You're going to Grant College.
Right. And we've now come, and I you'll see this in all of these episodes, right? Where we're so far into these seasons, the jokes and the tropes within the show are so well established that no one bats an eye at the callousness that the entire family pays to, or in the ways that they're so callous toward Mallory. Like, it's just like even Mallory's laughing at the fact that everyone is making fun of her for being stupid and going to a stupid school.
And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The show kind of walks a fine line with that, because the disses on Mallory are fun from Michael J. Fox. But yes, sometimes it doesn't land right, and yeah, it makes you feel bad.
And I think if you dropped in to an episode, any of these late series episodes from Family Ties, Growing Pains, and Step by Step, you'd be like, ugh, this show is nothing but a series of cliches and kind of meanness.
Yeah.
And it's all because it's expecting you to already have lived in the world, and just like in the same way within your family, oh yeah, you know how we always pick on Amy for talking too much.
Yeah.
Like it's not mean when it's just the ongoing joke that's always true.
I still think Family Ties still keeps its head kind of, it still keeps the high ground for the most part, I think, even though the Mallory stuff does get a little sketchy.
I think you have to like Michael J. Fox, and I think if you're just dropping in and you've never seen this show before, you wouldn't necessarily be all in.
Yeah, and we've talked to death about how Michael J. Fox really sells these sort of, shitty sides to his character.
They take a full laugh break when he's like, and the only thing that can save you from the evil taxes, little kids, is the Republican.
Yeah.
So who wants to be a Republican?
Yeah, well, so, okay, let's get to that. So they're getting ready to send everybody off to school.
For their first day.
Yeah.
Jen's going to her first day of junior high school looking like a 17-year-old woman, or a 17-year-old girl. Mallory is going to her first day of college, and Alex is going into his junior year of college, and Andy's off to pre-K.
Yeah, and so, as they're talking about, here's what you're going to learn in school today, Andy, whatever, of course, it starts coming out, we're going to learn about sharing, he's going to get a special mark for sharing or whatever, and we could already see where this is going before Elise, the mom, throws out the word communal, right? She goes, they have a communal approach, which I thought was funny. Like she's
like a communal approach to the toys.
Right. The fact that she's using that word, it's like she stops just short of going like, they believe the workers should own the means of production in this elementary school or this preschool. But yeah, so Alex goes, what is this a Karl Marx preschool or something?
Yeah, he's incensed, right? So everybody's now home from their first day of school, and we don't see the first day. We just get to hear about it. And Alex has called multiple times to the preschool during the day, trying to, get in touch with Andy and check in on him. And every time he was told by the school that it was nap time. So he's coming home and he's like, oh man, I can't wait to see Andy. And Andy's upstairs taking a nap. And he's like, what's going on? Something's up with this school. Why are they napping all day? What do you mean all the toys are communal?
Yeah.
I don't like this. And then the parents start explaining, well, it's more of a progressive education, but, that's what we wanted for him. They get to wear signs, little stickers when they achieve something. Like if there's a shy kid, they say, I learned how to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And Alex is just like, this is not preparing him for the real world.
Let's just talk about this for a second, because I feel like this is one of these things that keeps coming up as though this is like a new cultural argument. And it's not. Tale as old as time. This idea that the current generation is coddled too much.
Of course.
And we're not preparing them for life as it is, and it's just funny to me because now this is something that our generation, the Gen Xers are, rebelling against the millennials and the Zoomers or
the Alphas and the Zs.
Yeah, like everybody thinks that like these kids, you're being too easy on them and you're not preparing them for the world as it really is, and not accepting that like the world has changed. And just like that whole notion of like, well, my grandfather was a soldier so that my father could be a craftsman or something like that. Like it's completely
so that you
lost.
could be in a fucking band.
Yeah.
Like that's basically the way it goes,
but
right?
There's like
when you move towards a more educated educated, wealthy society, people do move away from the working with their hands type professions a lot of times.
Yeah, and just that they move towards an easier and a more comfortable existence,
Right.
and that just like bothers people. So it's just funny to me seeing this
But then
debate.
young people would say it's not an easier or comfortable existence, right? Like I'm scraping by. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. And so like, I just think the patterns that we see repeat themselves have to do with like you as a person, no matter what generation you were born, like you remember having to learn things the hard way.
Yeah.
And that is still true.
Yeah.
Everyone has to learn things the hard way. And there's no reason that those of us who are here to help steward and shepherd children from their childhood to their adulthood should teach them to starve now just because they might starve later. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Yeah. We should help them learn coping skills to deal with the things that are already going on in their lives rather than deride people as being like, oh, they don't know how, they're coddling them.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's Alex's thing. You need to prepare kids for the real world. So yeah, we get this same boomer Gen X thing, already happening in 1986 or whatever. He's trying to teach Andy about the automated teller machine. I just thought that was funny. Like that was kind of a newfangled thing.
It was in 1986.
This scene in the classroom where he's making the jokes about Mallory to the teacher, that's where I wrote down that it felt mean to me.
Right,
like,
because the teacher's not in the family.
And
she's not in the know.
Yeah, there's something about Alex making the dig on Mallory to her face where it's like, well, they're siblings, they make fun of each other. That doesn't bother me as much as when he's just going around talking shit about each other to every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
I thought that was such an interesting scene. So second day of school, Alex decides he's going to be the one to drop Andy off so he can get a real good look at what is really going on in this preschool. And so he goes there and he gets to meet the director of the preschool while the teacher is working with the kids. The director's sharpening crayons and getting the, little mud room all put away so the kids can do whatever they need to do when it's time to go to recess.
Yeah.
And she's just having a nice conversation with him. And she's saying, we welcome visitors. We're glad to have you here. Yes, take a look at the library. I mean, it's all very nice. But then Alex is like actively insulting her and insulting the program that she's running. And she's just like, well, you're welcome to stay and see it. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Like, she doesn't let any of it bother her. It's just flowing right over her head.
Yeah. And half of it is because, I guess somebody like this would just be used to dealing with people like this.
Sure.
And half of it is the sitcominess of this show. We've remarked on before that Family Ties, it's always good. I don't think it ever, jumps the shark and becomes a bad show. But with every passing season...
I don't know.
Well, we'll see. But with every passing season, it does get more sitcom-y. It does start to, little by little, sacrifice realism for cute or funny moments. And the way this whole school thing is going to sort of play out is that a little bit. It's Alex taking over the class and, doing all these things that probably wouldn't really happen. The way the teachers react to him probably isn't exactly realistic. But it's showing us this fun sitcom-y culture clash of, Alex, Mr. Young Republican, being like, you know what, you kids, you listen to me. You teachers, step aside. Let me show you how to teach a class.
Well, so he is incensed by everything he sees. He is not, placated at all. None of it is good. And he withdraws Andy from the preschool.
We should also say, in addition to just the communism thing, there's the gender roles thing happening.
Right.
Because he goes, where's Andy? Oh, he's over there diapering a doll.
He's over there playing house, and then he looks over and he's putting a diaper on a doll, and he goes over to him and he's like, Andy, what are you doing? He says, I'm diapering a doll. And Alex is like, well, where's your wife? And he goes, my wife's at work.
Right.
And he's just like, that was the last straw. He picks him up, takes him out.
Still too early to say I don't have a wife, I have a husband.
Right.
The next best thing.
Yeah. So Alex snatches him out of the preschool, withdraws him, obviously a 20-year-old brother of a child would be able able to do.
What Alex suggests to his parents is even funnier, though, because he frames it to the parents when they get home as though Andy, the little kid, made the decision to drop out of school.
He goes, like, he doesn't want to be here.
Andy withdrew from preschool today, and I have to say I admire his decision.
That's right. So he brings Andy home, and it's like, I guess, kind of, early afternoon, late afternoon kind of a thing before the parents get home from work. But Jennifer's already home from school, and he gets a dollhouse and a couple of dolls, he's like, Jennifer, you and me, we're going to deprogram all of the pre-K programming that Andy has been exposed to.
All the liberal, hippy-dippy crap.
We're going to have a real conversation. I'm going to be the husband, and you're going to be the wife, and I'm going to come home from work, and we're going to show him how to really play house. Yeah,
you recently introduced me to the term trad wife.
Yeah.
Right? This is what Alex is telling Andy he wants.
And he wants Jennifer to help him, like, play act this with these dolls. Of course, Jennifer is not giving any of that. She's just like, he's like, hi, honey, I'm home. And she was like, oh, that's nice, hon. How was your day? And he's like, oh, yeah, where's dinner? And she's like, I didn't have time to make dinner. Don't you understand? And he's like, what do you mean? I worked so hard. And she's like, I did all this housework and nobody ever pays me for it. And he's just like, ugh.
She says I had an affair with the milkman.
Right.
She says being a housewife just as important, but we don't get paid. Yeah, undermining all of Alex's teachings, so that doesn't work. And yeah, the next day at preschool, they do an exercise that I think is pretty advanced for circle time at nursery school, right? They do the thing of let's start a business, which I feel like was something we did in like 4th or 5th grade.
Well, it's a different, okay, so again, gonna go back to the wheelhouse here. But no, so this absolutely would be something you would see in a Montessori type environment where you're presenting an idea to the group of preschoolers.
They're just talking it through.
But then they get to go play act it in the like shop setup, in those different areas everybody would have to, so one of the kids is like, we're going to sell, let's have turtles, let's sell turtles. And then another kid is like, let's sell them for free.
Yeah. Just so to make clear what's happening here, because again, a little sitcom-y, knowing what we know about Alex, that on this morning as he's dropping off Andy, and he's walking out the door and just happens to hear these first few minutes of circle time where she's saying, okay, kids, we're going to start a business.
And he's like,
literally, it's like in Back to the Future when he hears the word chicken and he has to stop dead in his tracks. Here he hears the word business. Did someone say business? And so they're going to have the kids, walk through, well, what kind of store should we have? Let's have a turtle store. We can sell turtles, and that's what's going to get Alex to be like, all right, step aside, teachers. And it's very funny the way when he's still just sort of listening, not like he's deciding whether or not he's going to intervene, and what the little girl goes like, I think we should sell turtles. And Alex goes, the turtle market's been depressed since 81. Don't they know that?
And then he comes over, pushes the teacher out of the way, and is like, all right, so if we're going to sell turtles, let's talk about what kind of turtles. Number one, I think at least 75% of our market share should be disposable turtles.
Yeah, the kind that die right away.
Right. The teacher's like, what are those? And he's like, the kind that die as soon as you get them home. Like, he just is all about creating this business where he's going to take advantage of his customers.
Oh, it's great. He says to this like 3-year-old girl, he goes, Rhonda, have you done any modeling? Right?
And she's like, yes, and I have a dog. And he was like, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a nice picture with you and a big old turtle. And then we're going to get lots of red, white, and blue in our marketing.
Yeah, so it's a weird, like, there's a double-sided thing that's happening here, because I think as Alex starts to get into this, we, the audience, are definitely supposed to find it kind of cute in a kindergarten cop kind of way.
Right.
That Alex is being a kindergarten teacher. Like we said before, the teachers themselves are kind of stepping aside, probably not what would really happen, but going like, hey, let's let him cook. Let's see what this guy has. And so, we get like a nice few minutes of Alex sitting down and just getting really into it and working with the kids and developing this idea for their turtle store. And that's where it comes to the part you were talking about before, where he says, well, and then we're going to have to deal with taxes. One of the kids asks, what's
we
taxes?
Need a business manager because they will be the one that help us avoid paying taxes.
Yeah, and then he goes, taxes. There are these big, scary
it's an
monsters.
evil, liberal monster.
Yeah. And so that, again, this was where the sitcominess really started hitting me, when the next scene they come home from school and Alex is like, oh, by the way, Andy got his report card. He hands the report card, got a report card on like the second or third day of school,
right,
in preschool.
Well,
hands
so
it to
it's
the
probably
parents.
the end of the first week, and it's probably one of those like, did you get smiley faces every day?
Sure,
kind of thing.
But they use the word report card.
Of course.
And then,
well, Alex would.
And then, the dad starts reading it. He goes like, does not get along with the other students, attempts to take over every activity. And Alex is like, oh, no, sorry, that's my report card. Nice, funny laugh moment, but very silly. Right?
Yes. But it does, it gives a little bit of like self-awareness to the Alex P. Keaton of it all.
But yeah, look, in terms of tracking the trope, I mean, we've already kind of covered like why you would want to do this. In terms of how well it works, I think of all the episodes we are going to talk about, Andy as a little performer, I would say gets the least to do. He gets the least to say.
Well, this also is his first episode.
Yeah.
So, Brian Bonsall, who he was a child actor that kind of pieced out in his teens, and now he's a musician. This was his very first episode. So all the other episodes that we're going to watch are a little bit later into the first seasons that we've seen these kids. And so they get a little bit more.
Right. But they also probably, I would guess, focus on him less, just, for the way these things are. We need an Alex episode. We need a Mallory episode.
Sure.
But, I mean, that's another thing to track, is that even though this episode is ostensibly about Andy, of course it's about Alex, as I'm sure these episodes are all going to show.
It's about Alex carrying Andy around, speaking for him, and then every now and then they get a close-up on the little kid playing Andy, and he's like, I love Alex.
Right. Well, and also how, from a sort of content point of view, like, how do the grown-up characters deal with the situations that the children characters present?
Yes.
The wacky school situations and stuff. And yeah, it is fun. Like, this kid is very, very cute.
Oh,
There's
he's
no
super
denying
cute.
that.
And you're going to see as this season and the next go on, he does, like, he becomes the Jennifer that we always wish we had.
But at this
he's
time,
very funny.
His lines are few and far between. And the last time when he says, Alex loves me for the last time, it is completely indiscernible. You could tell, in my opinion anyway, they got like 3 or 4 takes. They took the one that came out the best. Yes, they did not think to ADR him or record it again or whatever. But just something to track that. I feel like he's, I think the swap out was probably worth it, but he's still like, he is
very young. And
shaky.
I think he is kind of like, he's kind of the youngest, right? Like the little girl that plays Lily she might be playing his age, but I think she's actually older.
Where these are all, in the same neighborhood, but I would guess, yes, I think he probably is the youngest of all of these. All right, let's move it along to Growing Pains.
Season 6, episode 13, The World According to Chrissie.
Yep, we've covered Growing Pains a few times. I've become pretty steadily of the opinion that I am not the fan of the original youngest child on this one either. Ben Seaver, I don't know. Maybe if we go back to season 1 when he's a little kid.
Jay.
No, I give them all a fair shake. I call them as I see them. And this, I think when he was a little kid, maybe he would have been fun. We haven't covered I guess we did cover one of the original ones, but the teenage Ben, I don't like. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
This new girl, I remember this vaguely from when the show was originally on, but I feel like I wasn't really watching it at this time. But this kid has such an iconic look, right? She's got these big blue eyes and this big mop.
She looks like Annie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Annie or like Raggedy Ann. And, she's got such a distinct face. And for all of these years, I could have sworn that she grew up to be the actor Mackenzie Davis, who was in Halt and Catch Fire and Tully and Terminator Genesis. And we discovered this on some other podcast we were talking about. I was shocked to learn that they are 2 completely different people.
Yes.
So who is this actress?
So Ashley Johnson is only a couple years younger than us. So she graduated in high school, I think, in 2000. So, I was 98. 98, you were 97. Like, she's a bit older. If she was 7 years old when she played Chrissie Seaver. Chrissie, this is her first season as well. The last season, she was a baby. We're 13 episodes in to season 6. Episode 1 of season 6, she was aged up to 5 years old and is now played by this 7-year-old actress.
This feels the most egregious to me. And I remember at the time this being a WTF type thing for me, being like, wasn't that kid a baby? And just everything we're saying, the hair, the precociousness, she's like lanky for a little kid.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. She is older playing younger, which a lot of kids do. Like, you do want to cast a kid that looks a little like, or that is a little bit older to play the younger, because then, oh my goodness, you can get that level of maturity. It's why we love Webster. It's why we love
usually
Gary Coleman.
It's a runt of the litter type person. It's not someone like this who seems almost like Jennifer, again, like a little bit big for her age.
Yeah. So she's kind of lanky and tall, like you said, but she's supposed to be 5, and she does all right with 5. They've got her in like a onesie, one of those like
again
old
supposed
zip-up.
to be 5, not to be like one of these guys at the comic convention, like, but if Thanos snapped everyone out of existence in 2022, but it's like she's 5 years old. So are we? Like, the show just does not acknowledge that 5 years have not passed.
Right.
Even though they're declaring this child is 5 years old.
Right. The show just doesn't acknowledge that, I guess, 4 years would have passed, right? Because she was born at the beginning of the season or so, end of the last season. She was a baby.
But because in real life, that would mean, like, Mike is probably married at this point.
He's
Ben
at
is
least
halfway
out of
through
school.
college. Right.
Yeah, because at this point, I think both Mike and Carol are in college.
Mm-hmm.
Ben is in kind of early high school. And I mean, and so...
and Mike is, by the time the show ends, he's fully out in the world.
Right, he's a teacher.
Yeah.
We're in this weird space, again, where, like, everyone just makes fun of the sister. So, like, everyone calls Carol a monster. Nobody thinks that she's dateable, even though she's, like, very cute and attractive.
Yeah.
She also is suffering, unfortunately, Carol Seaver is suffering from this thing that drives me crazy, where she won't look other actors in the eyes when she says her lines. And so, but she also, like, this is probably her period of time. This is in the period of time where she, as a human being, was going through a lot of, like, eating disorders and all the craziness stuff.
We saw her TV movie in health class, of course, about anorexia.
And
Tracy
bulimia,
Gold. Yeah, she had her issues. I'm going to say this lady playing the mom, she is my new age-appropriate TV crush, hall pass lady, whatever. I'm looking at this lady.
I think Joanna Kearns is probably like 35
in
this.
Yeah, she's born in 1953. She's the same age as my mom.
Age, yeah.
But when she was shooting this, she was 37. So,
there you go.
I'm going to say in those lonely moments, I'm going to be thinking about Joanna Kearns.
Well, I won't be leaving you lonely then, mister.
Growing Pains. But I'm just looking at this going like, yeah, I really like this lady's style.
She is, and she has gotten... She was always stylish, like even in the early seasons. Remember the one that we watched about that you were like going on about her crazy outfits?
Yeah.
When it was like she went back to work in season 1 or whatever. I just like, to me, she was like fashion icon. I loved her outfits in that. And she's thin, she's beautiful, she's an actress. Like, she's got all the carriage that you need for that. But yeah, in this one, she's dressed up to go out on a date because the story with this, and it's very Chrissie centric. Like this is a Chrissie episode, top to bottom, and she pulls it off. Like, she, of all the kids in all 4 of these episods, she's the one that
also
caries an entire episode.
All 4 of the kids in this family, this zero charisma family that I've been talking about.
Well, now, Cameron, I know isn't your favorite, but he's going
to have quite a journey. Yeah.
Yes. He 100%, like she is supposed to be the little him, because they've been trying to do it with Ben, but he just came off as fucking skeevy. And so they're like, we got to do something. We got to at least have one more charming kid, because we got the oldest and the youngest.
We need to have one charming kid. Yeah. and they finally got one. Yeah. This is all about, she's got an imaginary friend.
Right. So she, at the beginning of the episode, she's coloring and everybody is is, getting ready to go on dates and go out, and she's going to be, home alone with the parents, or just kind of like, shunted off to bed. And she wants Mike to read her a bedtime story before he goes out on his date. And he's like, sorry, Chrissie, you can't keep blondes waiting. And so she just tries all these different ways to try to get what she wants, and it's not happening, and Mike pieces out. And so then she wakes up in the middle of the night, and she has a new imaginary friend, a mouse named Ike.
Yeah. Her imaginary friend is Ike.
And then I guess he wants to go on a picnic outside. So she gets a picnic blanket. She's out in the driveway. She's got a whole picnic set up for Ike. And that's when Carol comes home from her date.
Yes, her date with the garbage man.
Exactly. And they're kissing in the front yard. And then Chrissie comes back out with some more stuff for the picnic. And she's like, oh, you're kissing. Do you guys want to join us for our picnic? And so the date gets freaked out because he's like, your sister's bananas, and like pieces out and leaves, and everyone just makes fun of Carol that she's undateable, and this guy is just freaked out by her little sister. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. But so that's where she ruins
right.
in quotes the date.
And then Carol goes up to the parents. This was very funny, I thought. I've come to realize I like the parent. I mean, I've discussed how I like the mom. Alan Thicke too, he's very funny.
Yes,
as Jason
they
the dad.
are. They're fun.
And so the parents are sleeping. It's late at night, I guess. And so Carol goes in and wakes them up to tell them, the little kid, Chrissie, she's outside doing some weird picnic thing. And
or she was outside
right.
having a picnic with this 6-foot-tall mouse named Ike.
Yeah,
and she's giving him beer, and she's like, but don't worry, I poured the beer out and I put her to bed. And the mom is like, Maggie, the mom is like, so you handled it?
Yeah.
And Carol's like, yeah, I handled it. And she's like, so why are you waking us up?
Yeah. But the way the dad delivers the line, he goes, are you dating our garbage man? Because he somehow gleans this when she's explaining that she was out at the curb with her boyfriend or whatever.
Well, she was like, no, he said, aren't we supposed to meet these young men that you're
yeah,
dating?
You meet
and
him
she
on
said,
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
You've met him on Tuesdays and Thursdays every
Yeah.
morning by the curb. And he's like, are you dating our garbage man?
But this is going to start, she goes off and Maggie and Jason, the parents, start talking, and this is going to be a recurring theme.
Right.
Jason starts reminiscing about his imaginary friend, Bud Collar. I guess this is a real guy. He says this is a TV game show host.
Yeah, I guess.
That he, also served as his imaginary friend. But yeah, we're going to get, throughout the episode, a lot of the imaginary friend subtropes, where the next day at breakfast, we're going to have the old, don't sit on Ike, is Ike here now? And the parents pretend to go along with it and talk to him. Oh, but he's not here anymore. He's in the bathroom.
He's in the bathroom. Bud Collier was the host of To Tell the Truth.
There you go. They start talking about Ben's imaginary friend, Pirate Sam. And, there's a whole joke about, like, he's devastated to find out that he wasn't real.
Yeah, he's like, I thought he went off on a new adventure.
Yeah. And so, the whole sort of middle part of the show is, Chrissie having this imaginary friend and everyone kind of dealing with it. We get another
Maggie,
preschool scene.
Right. Maggie is really uncomfortable with it. She's like, no, I didn't have an imaginary friend. And Alan Thicke's like kind of teasing her, like, well, it's a mark of a highly creative person. Yeah. And she's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I didn't have one. And I guess, they don't go into whether or not Carol and Mike ever had them. But then, yes, we get another preschool scene where they go to school and the teacher is Jolie Fisher.
Yeah.
She's got, again, sarcastic, kind of great face. She's doing everything she can in her little moment where she gets to have a scene with the lead of a major network sitcom.
Yeah, and I guess this is after the point, somewhere along the line, we get a big change in our mise en scène because Ike, the imaginary mouse, stops being invisible to us, the audience, and we start seeing him. And he is played by Kirk Cameron.
Yes.
In an outfit kind of like, they look like the people in the live-action action Jim Carrey version of The Grinch Stole Christmas, or this show on Netflix a few years ago. I don't know, just that thing where you have like a deer face.
Right. Well, to me, he looks like the tall, skinny one from the Animaniacs. Like that's who he looks like, a human version of that. He's wearing a tux with tails, and he's got the little Mickey Mouse glove hands where they're like the big 3-finger, Mickey Mouse glove hands. And he's got the prosthetic like mouse nose on that he's having a great time with as an actor, like blowing because he can like sigh and it'll sort of like puff out a little bit. So yeah, it's he's having a good time with it. And yeah, there's this moment where the camera like turns off of Maggie and the teacher having this conversation, and you see all of the kids in the pre-K or the kindergarten or whatever that are sitting there having playtime with all of their little adult imaginary friends.
It's like Drop Dead Fred. There was a scene like that in Drop Dead Fred where you got to see all of the kids' imaginary friends, and they're all weird creatures and stuff.
Right.
And
well,
then,
so Maggie, through her conversation with the teacher, realizes, because she is asking the teacher, she's trying to like pepper the teacher for like pump the teacher for information, right? Yeah. She wants to know if this Ike character has ever been talked about before. And the teacher's like, no. And the teacher sort of figures out, right? Jolie Fisher sort of figures out that something's going on. And Maggie just keeps being like, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine. Everything, that. And so she realizes, like the teacher kind of realizes through this conversation that, oh, there's an imaginary friend. Oh yeah. They all have imaginary friends, like it's no big deal.
And maybe
she also thinks it's no big deal. Exactly.
Maybe she needs attention. And she goes like, yeah, don't have to be Sigmund Freud here. She goes like, is there an Ike in your family? Oh, no, of course we don't have an Ike. We just have a Carol and a Ben and a Mike. And then so it's like, okay, boom. Psychosis solved. Yeah.
A mouse named Ike. Exactly. After Mike, who wouldn't play with her the previous evening.
Yes, because he wanted to play with the big girls, quote unquote, because he's such a ladies' man.
That's right.
So in the final act of this, we get a lot of state-of-the-art split-screen special effects here.
Yes, we can even see the like keying out of the back of her pajamas and hair.
The slightly different color timing I noticed between the two Camerons. But yeah, we get, I have to say, I mean, we're teasing it, but it is an effective way for them to sort of show her getting over it. The last scene that we're talking about is she's home in her bedroom. Mike comes home and he starts spending time with her. He starts playing with her. And so...
Well, so Maggie has set this up. Maggie, and this is why she's in the pretty dress, when Alan Thicke's character comes home, when Jason comes home, she is like, great, we're going out to dinner. Thanks, Mike, for babysitting. We'll see you later. And so she set this whole thing up and has paid Mike to babysit. And she's like, Ben, get out of here. Like telling him to, go away and let them have their time together. And yeah, she's set it up so they're all out of the house and Chrissie and Mike can hang out together.
I have to say, like this... It's funny, I was just complimenting them on the storytelling about the Chrissie and Mike thing resolving the imaginary friend is very clear, but the beat about her rushing Jason out to dinner I found confusing because I didn't realize, like, I guess to me, the crux of the issue is that Mike wasn't around because he's always out chasing tail.
Right.
And so he's not spending time with her.
And so Maggie solved that.
Right, but what I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying is just like, I don't think you needed it to be empty house. They need to be alone with only each other.
No,
if
Ben's
he's available
still there.
to her, that's all that matters.
Sure.
So I was thrown by her going like, oh, Jason, we got to get out of here. Like, to me, it played like she was trying to conceal something from Jason, as opposed to like, oh no, we just can't be anywhere near them so that they can have their quality time.
No, I think you're taking it to an extreme that it wasn't actually being, right? Like
beat.
She was just first of all, she was just trying to go out on their date so that Mike didn't try to weasel out of it or didn't like she didn't want him to pawn it off on Ben. She didn't want all the people to be there so that Chrissie could hang out with anybody else. Right. Like, let's go. Let's have a nice night together. And there is this sort of ongoing thing that's happening between Maggie and Jason, right, where he's teasing her about like being uncomfortable with the imaginary friend. He's brought home this, like, 3 file folders thick of
he's
research,
exactly,
on information about how, why, all the background that you might need.
To ease your mind, some literature.
And she's like not wanting to have the conversation. She's like, okay, let's just go. Let's just get out of here. And he just keeps wanting to like get involved in, and she's like, we're done. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, just something in the moment, her urgency, I was a little thrown by it. But regardless, we get the scene in the bedroom where as Mike starts to play with her, let's have a tea party. Let's do this and that. And all of a sudden, Ike, the imaginary mouse who's in with them in the same shot, starts to become the third wheel.
Yeah,
and he starts to be this annoying extra person. And it is funny, like, I jotted down, Chrissie's a little bit of a dick to him. Like, if you accept the reality where he is real to her, she is very quick to kind of be like, hey, Ike, you're kind of bothering us. Yeah, pipe down over there. Come on, I'm playing with Mike over here.
Well, she invited them to join him, or she invited him to join them. But and I think it follows in the same tone of how she is very, like, spunky all the time.
But also, I think we're just supposed to understand, of course, that this is a figment of her imagination that was only created because of the lack that she perceived, because
of the big brother that she adored didn't have time for her, so she was making this other guy up.
Right. And so there's a point where, we talked about this a little bit with the UFOs, with, whenever the sitcoms sort of dabble in the paranormal, and we get those little teases at the end where Ike, the imaginary friend, storms out, and like the last shot of the episode is in the driveway. He comes storming out of the driveway, walks between the two parents, Jason and Maggie, as though he's invisible, but then, he says something, screw them, or whatever it is he says, and Jason is like, did you hear something? And it's just one of those, is he real or whatever? But
he's off to the land of forgotten imaginary friends.
Yeah, joining Drop Dead Fred and all of the friends from If. But look, in terms of tracking the trope, again, like you said, I think this Chrissie girl, what is her name, the actress's name?
Her name's Ashley Johnson, and she was in a ton of stuff, like ubiquitous as a little kid, and now I think she just does a shit ton of voice work.
She's light years ahead of little Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're both very cute.
She's also like 3 years older.
I know, but it's funny how they're both in the same position. Like, they both were supposed to be infants a year ago.
Yes.
And I think we're both saying that, it's like the deal you make with the devil here. Like, the rewards are bountiful. Like, you get a great little performer to add to your cast. I would say maybe the best member of this cast. But
I mean, the parents are pretty great.
But you're straining credulity by asking us to swallow that this, like, fully formed person is the same little baby that was in a bonnet, 6 months ago.
Well, I mean, I guess, but I love this trope because it is exactly the opposite. Nobody's asking us to swallow that this kid aged overnight and everybody just skipped 4 years, but we didn't notice it in any of the other storylines because all the other kids are still going into the same next year grade. No, absolutely not. I think that it's exactly what sitcoms should do, which is tell us fun stories about families, and if the kids are the wrong age, who cares? We live in imagination land. The Simpsons have been the same age for 30 fucking years and nobody cares because they're cartoons. Yeah, exactly. So, like, you gotta do, when you don't have cartoons, you do this. It's still imaginary.
No, yeah, of course. If you did have any interest in continuity, I'm just saying that this is the one that would be the most egregious.
So much interest in continuity, and I think that this trope is quaint.
Yeah, right on. Moving on to Step by Step.
Season 6, Episode 19, The Facts of Life.
Yeah, so we've talked about this once or twice before. I was not super into Step by Step. I feel like TGIF kind of like I was into the early days of it maybe, and then I think even like I was into the early half of it, like that.
You didn't watch the last hour.
Yeah, like I would kind of
9 to
tune
10.
out. I feel like I just remember being into Full House and Family Matters. And then just this kind of being like, I don't get what the hook is. It's another family with a lot of kids. And
well, it was like the Brady Bunch. That was the hook for me, because it's this, mom and dad, they each have 3 kids, they get married and they form this blended family. And I was a huge Brady Bunch rewatcher. I watched it on the reruns. That was like a show that was on in reruns and stuff all the time in the afternoons, and I loved watching that. So when this came out, I was like, they're going to redo the Brady Bunch. Oh, and it's going to be with Chrissie from Three's Company, Well,
that's the thing, is I didn't have that connection with any of these people, so I wasn't familiar with them already as actors, and there's no one in this cast really. Wow. Maybe the blonde girl that we talked about last time.
Who's not blonde, that only happened in this late season. Like, you've not seen good episodes. Both of the episodes we watch have been from this season 6, and it's completely gone off the rails.
Enough. All I'm saying is that there's nobody in the experiences that I've had with it that kind of jump out to me. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. Like the Patrick Duffy, the lead guy, if you put him up against any of the fellas from Full House or John Ritter or the dad from Family Ties or whatever, it's just like, sorry, buddy, you don't got it. When you go down the line with all of them, it's just like, yeah, you're not terrible, but I kind of see why when I was 12, 13, 14, whatever, it's like, yeah, I got my Uncle Jesse, I got Urkel and the gang. I don't need to stick around for these guys.
Well, but this is 97.
Yeah, well, that's the other reason.
Exactly. So, you are not, you being 12, 13, this isn't the show you would have been watching.
If this wasn't around...
No, it was. It was around. This is season 6.
Okay, gotcha.
So, when you were 11 years old, you're 17 when this episode airs. When you're 11 years old and this show starts, it's a different show.
Gotcha.
And it's more fun. And the kids who are the grown-ups now, they're all in college. The youngest of all 6 kids, she is now in high school. She's the one, Al, that was the tomboy that I was telling you about, that was the center of the other episode we watched. She was so funny as a little tomboy, when she was a kid actor. There was so much more charm. You had Stacey Keenan, who's the daughter from My Two Dads. She's the blonde girl in this show. She was a redhead up until she went to college, and she did she wanted her character to be cooler, and now she got the Felicity treatment, and instead of chopping her hair off, she not only chopped it off, but she dyed it this bleach blonde, and she has these dark black roots. And you're where did that even come from?
At the same time as my so-called life, you're doing crazy things with hair, and I get it, whatever, it's 90s, they want to try different things.
But I'm saying this is a totally different looking show and feeling show.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Stacey Keenan is the one that in the small bits we get from her, I can tell she might have been you could have hung a sitcom on her, maybe.
And you did, 2 of them.
Right, but we didn't get much of her, like you're saying, in the episodes we've watched.
Right.
We get a lot of these 2 boys. One of them is the one that ran
JT,
for class president against Blossom.
That's the best friend.
The other one looks like if you were making a Scorsese mafia movie and you had a flashback scene to when they were 15, that's how you would cast this kid. Or Big Pussy from The Sopranos when he was in junior high.
When he was young.
It would be this kid. Yeah.
He's burly. He's got a square head. But so that's JT. I think he played on the football team.
He also dresses like a hitman from some 90s, mafia movie or something.
Yeah. So those are, those 2 I think are still, in high school or early. I think they're in early college too. But yeah, it makes no sense. We talked about this the last time we watched one of these episodes. They have Stacey Keenan's character, who was always the most intelligent, was gonna, go to Sarah Lawrence College. You know what I mean? She's this ultra feminist, really brilliant, was gonna rule the world as a, journalist or something one day. And just with Alex P. Keaton and all of our very intelligent, older children, they end up not actually going away to the Ivy League school that they are 100% prepared for all of this time. They stay local and they go to the local college and they try to like make that work, with like them still. But she is now dating her brother's dopey ass friend.
They didn't invent a fictitious Ivy League school for her to go to, a la Family Ties.
Well, Elon is an actual school. It's just not.
It's just not that good.
It's just not an Ivy League school.
So this one, of course, is going to focus on this new little girl. So give us the background. Is this another situation where in the previous season
Yes.
she was born?
She was born at the beginning of season 5, and now we are in season 6. And at the beginning of season 6, she was aged up to, you guessed it, 5 years old. So they did a season of baby episodes and, having the baby on screen, off screen, whatever. And then now we have a new little girl. Did you recognize this little girl?
Well, is she in the Little Rascals movie by any chance?
Oh, I don't think so. She's the Welch's grape juice commercial girl. The one who was always like, so like,
Every
it makes your
man,
mouth
woman, and
smack.
child remembers that. I
You don't remember that from all the nights of watching the old commercials?
Grapefruit commercial.
Not grape juice, not grapefruit. Yes, she was the Welch's kid and jelly and all that.
What I wrote about her is that she looks like a 4-year-old Paul Appel. If you know that comedian.
Yes, and she has the attitude for it too. Yeah. She is like when you think child actor, like this kid, this is like Jonathan Lipnicki going toe to toe with Jerry Maguire. That's who this kid is.
But she is really good, I have to say. If we were so quick to declare the one from Growing Pains the MVP, but she would give her a run for her money. I think this kid is very funny.
And
she's definitely younger.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she looks like she's about 4. Yeah, she's like a little grouchy old, like she just has so much character. She does have this runt of the litter
runt
quality.
Of the litter thing. Yes.
Yeah, and so it's going to begin with they're playing with dolls, right? And you get, it's the 90s. We get this sort of like, sort of condescendingly presented, like the girls are being feminist and talking about like the patriarchy and the macho totalitarian.
So there's the 2 older sisters. You've got Karen, she's the one with the long dark hair, and she's playing dolls with Lily, who's the new baby sister. So the deal with this family, like I said, it's a Brady Bunch family, but then the parents, who are Frank and Carol.
This is the first full product of their...
Exactly. Yeah. They have now had a kid together, so this is the first actual Foster Lambert, right? Because their last name's like half the kids are Foster, half the kids are Lambert as their last name, not because they're foster kids, but their last name is Foster. And then this child is a Foster Lambert. And so she's playing dolls with Karen, who's kind of like she's always like the ditzy, she's like the Mallory, she's like the ditzy, really about makeup and shopping and boys, into fashion, wants to be
Nicole
a model.
Eggert from Charles in Charge versus Josie Davis.
Exactly. So she is playing dolls with Lily, and she's like, now you have to remember that the boys who have the money are the ones who get the girls, or something along those lines.
She should have gone and played dolls with Alex P. Keaton.
Exactly.
She's presenting exactly the model that he was looking for.
That's what he wanted. And so then you have Stacey Keenan, who, like I said, she's always been this like super intelligent feminist woman. She's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And she grabs the doll and she's, trying to give a different message that's not, you should be working and you don't have to do whatever a man says, and maybe you have your own money. And Karen's just like, we're just playing dolls, like relax. And then this idiot boyfriend comes in, who's the best friend of the idiot brother, and he gives Stacey Keenan's character a kiss, and this is the crux of the episode.
Yes, this is the inciting incident when the parents come home. This little girl, Lily, who we're saying again, like she gets a lot to do in this also. Not as much as Chrissie, but she is going to have a lot lots of speaking, lots of the plot resting on her.
She gets to ask very cheeky questions that she has been told are cheeky, and she
also
grins through them.
Yeah, and just deliver all kinds of sassy stuff. But yeah, she's going to tell the parents that Dana, the daughter, is going to have a baby.
Right.
And
Dana and her boyfriend, I don't remember what his name is, are going to have a baby. And they're like, what? And the boyfriend, like Dana and the boyfriend are still there. And they're like, no. Yes. What? I don't know what she's talking about.
This is the Eddie Munster looking guy from Blossom.
His name is Jason Marsden.
Yes. It all comes to a head when she's like, yes, they're going to have a baby. They kissed. That's how babies happen.
Exactly. They're like, hold on. We get the sight gag. They're like, our new dishes finally came in. They're going to have a baby. Psh, drop the brand new dishes. And the box cracks, and we hear shatterbox. And so, Lily has been told by a classmate that kissing is where babies come from. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, okay. Dana and her boyfriend run off. Carol and Frank sit down to have a conversation about the truth of where babies come from with their preschooler.
Yeah, the dad starts talking about a magical Cabbage Patch. He starts going down the road.
He's telling the story of the Cabbage Patch dolls.
Yeah,
like the commercial. Again,
which themselves is sort of based on this weird.
They
myth
come
of
from the rainbow. Yeah, they come from the rainbow when mommy and daddy want a baby, or when a little kid wants a baby really bad. The Cabbage Patch, rainbow brings them one.
Exactly, and so he's doing all that, and it's the mom, right, who says no, just tell it like it is.
Yeah, she's like, whoa. We're not gonna lie. She's asked us an honest question, and she deserves an honest answer.
Yeah.
So she sits her down, and the little girl's like, but I like it when Daddy explains things because he explains it so much better. Yeah. And turns and looks at him, and Patrick Duffy's like, oh.
Yeah. Now, all the while, this little girl playing Lily, she's very good and very funny, but you can see her looking off camera, looking at her parent or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's very cute. But we don't really get the full explanation, right?
We get the first
him kind
two
of tiptoeing
sentences.
Around it.
Yeah, so he says, well, babies come from mommy's bellies, and she says, well, how does the baby get into mommy's belly?
Right. That's where the seed goes.
Is planted. And how is the seed planted? And then he picks up the dolls, and he's like, okay. And then it cuts to another scene, one of the B stories or something. Oh yeah, the gambling thing with the two boys. That was stupid. But we have to mention as well, this season sees another new character coming in who is like the assistant, Carol's assistant at work, is played by Jean-Luc, is played by Bronson Pinchot, doing a really funky French accent.
Now, is that because Perfect Strangers went off the air and they wanted to keep him going in the Miller Boyette family, or is this concurrent?
Perfect Strangers has been off the air for a while. Okay. We're in 97. Right. Perfect Strangers has been done for a little while. So he had done First Wives Club or whatever, I think, by this point.
He shows up in True Romance.
Yeah, he's doing lots of things. But I think a steady
he's a sitcom.
Everybody loves it. Yeah, I would say first of all, he's hilarious. You can see the other actors, like the kid actors, visibly cracking up when they have their scenes with him. He's just so good, and he's funny, and he's forced to put himself in these I just can't imagine being this guy having to have these idiots as a scene partner.
Yeah. Look, the challenge of playing a French person trying to come off as a cowboy, as he's going to do in this, you could definitely take it as an interesting challenge. But yeah, they have, like you said, a pretty stupid B story.
Right.
The crux of this is going to be that when little Lily gets wind of what sex is, we're going to get another preschool scene where she's going to go and spread the word. And this little actress nails this, I think, where she has her little dolls in school.
Show and tell time. Yeah. Okay, but before you tell this, can we just talk about how that scene starts? As a teacher, I I visibly and audibly cringed. These children are literally running amok. I mean, they are jumping off chairs. They're swinging jump ropes around.
I took it to be
It
like
is
the
chaos. And the teacher comes in the room and is like, okay, kids, nap time's over. I was like, I have got to get this teacher some help. She doesn't know how to do her job. This is horrible. I mean, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah, I forgot about the nap time thing. I just figured, it was the chaos of like when the kids are first arriving or getting ready to leave or recess or something.
Right. And look, and I know that they were doing it for television and that's fine, but the chaos was so extreme that if like I ever walked past a classroom where things like this were going on, I would just go in just to be like, hey, everything okay? Like it was ruckus, like a child was about to get hurt, and I'm surprised a kid didn't get hurt. Like it was that crazy, and I was like, whoa. Anyway, start school tomorrow, yay. Nap time's over, time for show and tell, and they sit in little show and tell buddy groups. So she and her friend Jason, or whatever his name was, and 2 other kids are in their little show and tell group, and she is like, you need to come and hang out with my group, Jason, because I know where babies come from. And he's like, so do I, kissing. And she's like, oh no, I know the real story, and you're not gonna believe this.
Yeah, she goes, that's just the first part. And he goes, oh really? What's the rest of it? And she picks up the 2 dolls and she goes, this is gonna blow your mind. Mm-hmm. It's like Jack Nicholson in The Joker going, wait till they get a load of me. It's just like this moment. And then, it cuts to commercial, and, we get to fill in our imaginations of how this little 4-year-old explained to the rest of them what she learned from her parents.
Right.
And then the rest of the episode is going to be the fallout of this.
Right.
Basically, because, her friends' parents are a bunch of prudes, and they're going to get wind that, she's not allowed to hang out with them anymore because they're scandalized about all this.
So, we have another day at the preschool where the mom, Carol, comes to pick up Lily, and Lily's off, in another room, probably creating havoc because there's no control in this classroom. And the teacher is like talking to the mom and is like, oh yeah, something about, I think I know what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, she says straight up, she says, oh, I know why they're upset. Your little Lily, she told them all about the birds and the bees.
Right.
And then they're embarrassed, but the teacher is very cool about it. She's like, oh no, this is, standard procedure. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'll smooth it over. I'll talk to him.
Well, and she's like, let me just set up a meeting so that you guys can, work it out. The parents can work it out, because Jason, or whatever his name is, his parents have said, you can't go play at Lily's house anymore because Lily's family is dirty.
Yeah, exactly. And so they arranged this little, meeting between the 2 parents. And the sort of unexpected twist is that this was probably before I think we were throwing around the term hipster, but the parents are very
definitely
young.
Super young.
To the
They're
point
like
that
24, and the parents,
our parents, the characters from the show, think that they're like students or whatever from the local high school. They're like, no, we're the parents of your kid's friend.
We're Joey's parents.
Yeah, and they sort of have this like, relaxed, cool vibe about them, but they're like, we think
that's his name, Joey.
They're like, we think it's irresponsible to teach kids about sex at this point, which is a weird. I wanted to just kind of pause on this for a second, because this is one of those things that just like nobody really knows what to make of it, like I definitely think when he said the word irresponsible, I was like, that's not right. Like that is not the right word to use for it, even if I understand the impulse to conceal things like that from your kids. But kind of like the way, like, look, my thoughts on Santa Claus are that like the true nature of that should be revealed sooner rather than later. Like I think a lot of the way that we romanticize like sort of lying to kids just stems from traditions. It's like we were talking about at the beginning, stems from the traditions of yesteryear, the circumstances and the worlds of yesteryear that just aren't possible now, and it just creates confusion to tell kids bizarre mythologies about how the world works.
Yeah,
so,
but it's fun.
I guess what I'm saying is, I think that we should err on the side of telling kids the truth. And if anything, simplifying it, not creating weird alternative explanations like the Cabbage Patch.
Sure, for something like sex, like for things that are real, right? Like, I think absolutely there's ways that you can explain it to a kid in that they will understand, right? What you don't want to do is speak in abstractions, because abstractions are not understood because that part of the brain isn't formed yet. And so then the cognitive leaps that they make to make things make sense end up with all sorts of, it's the reason we have like crazy mythology around women's bodies.
Right. So when you say speak in abstractions, to put a finer point on it, you mean saying like, oh, well, it's because they love each other or something like that.
Right. Or you know, that happens when you get married, or you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, yes, maybe that is true that does happen when you get married. But like, how do these two with two daddies, how did they have a baby? Right. Like those are real questions that little kids have. Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think really and truly what the show is trying to say, and maybe a little bit what you're trying to say as well, is that parents do just get to decide. And how they want their kids to know that, and it really is what you're comfortable with as a parent, right? Because if you're stumbling over your words and you're trying to figure it out first, then it's not going to go well for you, and it's not going to go well for your kid, right? Yeah. And so the conversation that happens between the step-by-step parents and then this friend's parents is, we absolutely like respect your right to make your decisions about when your kid learns about these things. And we also don't want to keep, just because we disagree, we don't want to keep our kids from being friends. Yeah,
I think my point is more that the world, as time goes on, the world as it really is, and information becomes so much more accessible that these traditions of telling your kids that babies come from a cabbage patch and stuff like that, they come from a time when you could keep that going for a lot
Sure, but I don't
longer.
think like babies coming from the stork is the same impulse as Santa. I mean, I think I see what you're saying, like you can take it back to a certain thing, but it's not. There's a joyfulness that comes with the magic of a holiday season. There's a fun that comes from finding a quarter or a dollar under your pillow from a tooth fairy.
But in both cases, I would say, like, it's a moot point, but I think if I had kids, like, there are newer ways to capture that joy that don't necessarily involve...
it's called Elf on the Shelf, and it's a threat. Why would you do that?
No, I'm not saying Elf on the Shelf. I'm just saying there's all kinds of ways to have fun and do these traditions that don't necessarily involve like, he does that by, and coming up with weird like mythologies to justify things. Again, I'm just saying these were things that people came up with like centuries ago.
I see your point about like trying not to actively lie to kids, but there's a certain innocence in believing in magic.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing wrong with allowing children to believe in magic, and adults for that matter.
Yeah, fair enough. But the way that this is going to all get resolved is the kids themselves are going to step forward and say, like you say, can't we all just get along? Yeah.
They were just like, look, we are going to respect each other as parents, and we're not going to keep our kids from being friends.
Yeah, my last note is they agree to put their difference aside for kids' friendships. And it just kind of, that's all we get. But yeah, this little girl is really good.
Yeah, and she's very funny. We don't get as much of her as we get of Chrissie. She is definitely younger. She's got all that, like I said, like Jonathan Lipnicki kid spunk, Punky Brewster kind of, this is how I act, little kid acting. But it's, she's cute and she does a good job, and that's all she needs to be.
Yeah, and again, sort of tracking the trope of, it's another case of we're going to give her an episode that focuses on her, but it's still going to be about the parents and how they deal with, the challenges of parenting. Okay, moving on to Modern Family.
Season 3, episode 13, Little Bo Bleep.
Yeah, so this... Little Bo Peep is going to be the story for our little Lily character. It's arguably kind of a B story. Like
Modern Family's always like that, though, right? You've always got three there's three families, and so there's a story in each family. So there's always. And to me, it's more like Friends, where oftentimes you don't have an ABC story. You just have like 3 B stories. Everybody is on equal footing. Yeah. A lot of it is going to be devoted to this thing about Claire, the wife, running for office. Right. I assume this is going to be something unfolding over many episodes. Lily is... Again, it's a Lily. This is the child of the same-sex couple that is played by, what are their names? Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Eric Stone Street. They're Cameron and Mitchell on the show. And so, same deal, I guess. She was a baby last year? Yep, she was. So I think there were like maybe infants, and then there were a little bit older twins, I think, that played her for like one season or something. And then, now that that's totally gone. And those 2 twins, like I said earlier, they became challenging to work with on set. And so during season 2, they were like, all right, we're going to have to replace these kids. And then the conversation started happening about like, do we age her up? And what do we do with that? And so this is the one that is like the least aged up, right? You again have an actress who's a little bit older than she's actually playing. I think she is actually like 5, and she's supposed to be playing like 3 or 4. I think 3, maybe 4 by this point in the season. So what they did with it is she was supposed to be like 1 kind of all of last year when she was these babies. So then they have her 3rd birthday, I think, kind of right at the beginning of this season. And then they have her 4th birthday at some point in this season. So she's only technically aged 2 years, and they just tried to condense it down. But again, you've got this 5-year-old that's playing like a 3-ish 4-year-old, and then the beginning of next season she's 5, right? Or she's 5 going on 6. So like they kind of condensed the 2 years into one season and just sort of talked about her being the next stage older as though time had passed. Gotcha. And of course, we should mention this is a single camera show. So the whole nature of working with a child is a little different. You would still have a lot of the same challenges, but these single camera shows, they're shot like movies. So just the sheer, like, the tonnage of time that you would need for a little kid to be on set, like that would be a lot less, whereas the amount of sort of trickery you could do and shooting around them and stuff like that. Yeah, there's an awful lot of time where she's just like standing off camera. Right, and so you could have body doubles, you could have, at this point now, you could very easily just digitally throw in somebody's, little kid's shoulder or something to stitch the shots together. She was standing next to the couch while Cameron and Mitchell are having conversations on the couch. And so I think oftentimes, like when you have that sort of dynamic and you're not in the multicam, like we could see half, the whole set or whatever, because we're farther back, she is not in the shot a bunch. So if they're needing to do reshoots or they're doing a bunch of takes, or there's a part where they're, saying something bad or whatever, and the kid can't be there for that, they've got all that flexibility. Yeah, they can just let her go. Exactly. There's just much more freedom, I think, with that kind of production. But yeah, she's going to get in the mail her dress for this upcoming wedding where she's going to be the flower girl, right? Whose wedding? Don't know. Oh, we don't even know. Okay, just some friends or whatever. Yeah. And so it's very funny, I thought, when they take out the dress. It's blue, like little Bo Peep. Yes. It's got lights on it. She goes, "I love it." And then both of the husbands say in unison, "No, you don't." No, you don't. Yeah. It is. It's very Southern Belle, sort of over the top. It's not even like a pretty pastel blue that you would think of like a little Bo Peep shepherd girl would have. It's almost like the like Jewish flag blue, like Star of David blue.
Yeah,
it's
like
like
royal
very,
blue.
yeah, it's like very like bright blue. And it has all this extra fringe all over it and like lace and stuff, and it lights up. And there's this crazy light up kind of flower crown that she's wearing. And it is just, it's crazy tacky for sure. And so they're like, oh my God, well, maybe we can, you know, get her into something else. Maybe we can get her out of the wedding. And no, she's gonna, you know, she's gonna be in the wedding and she's gonna, and then she's standing there next to the couch while having tried the dress on, and now they're practicing tossing the flowers. Like, here's how you throw the flowers. And Cameron is a, what does he say? What does he say? He's a 4-time ring bearer. Yeah. So he's taking it upon himself to teach Lily the right way to, you know, lead everybody down the aisle with these flowers. And so she's doing it, and then, I don't know, she, apropos of nothing, just like looks at them and says, fuck. Yeah, and we, the audience, don't understand what she says at first. This is done, of course, we should say, so this is 2012, so this is very much post-office Curb Your Enthusiasm world. It's shot in that faux documentary style. Yeah. And so we get the either bleeping or silencing of her saying the word and the pixelation effect over her mouth, like you're watching an episode of Cops or something. Right. And so, you know, you, the audience, are just like, whoa, what was that? What did she say? And then it's disorienting at first, but then the one husband, Cameron, starts laughing and has to like bolt off. Yeah. And this is going to be the main story. He says, you know, I have 2 weaknesses, children cursing and old people rapping. And he just can't, he just loses it. They're both very funny things. Yeah. And so, you know, the other husband is just like, this is a problem now. Like, your laughter has just ignited a thing. Yeah. Now she's going to do it because she knows it makes you laugh. Yeah. And so that's not good. And so he's like, I know she didn't see me. We're going to keep her from doing it. Like, it's fine. And he's like, and he's like, but I don't think we should make a big deal out of it, because if we tell her it's a bad word, because that's what Mitchell wants to do. Mitchell wants to tell her it's a bad word, tell her she's not allowed to say it. And Cameron's like, no, if we tell her it's a bad word, she's just going to say it more. She'll know. She doesn't know what she's saying right now. And Mitchell's like, yeah, but she knows it makes you laugh. And he's like, no, I'm nipping that in the bud. It's not going to happen again. And of course it happens again. And she says it like 3 or 4 times. And then by the time we get to the wedding, number one, they've told her it's a bad word and she's not allowed to say it. Yeah. And number 2, and then she said it a few more times, because every time Daddy Cameron gets sad or upset, she wants to make him laugh. Yeah. She's like, how can it be a bad word if it makes you laugh, Daddy? And they're like, it's still a bad word. It doesn't make me laugh. And he's like giggling while he's trying to explain this to her. And so then she's on complete, like, vocal rest. Like, she's not allowed to talk. Yeah, she's on verbal lockdown, I think is what they say. Let's just talk about this girl for a second, because she's very good too, but in a way that's not... I guess I would describe her as naturalistic, maybe. She's got that little kid quality that some kids in modern stuff have, where she just looks almost like disengaged when she's talking sometimes. Like, she's just kind of like, she does not have the Punky Brewster thing that we talk about with the 80s kids, where she's swinging it to the rafters, everybody, and gee whiz, just call me Gypsy Rose. Like, she's not like that. No. She's like the opposite. Like, she looks like they just put the camera on her. Again, remember, single camera production. It's like they just kind of put the camera on her and let her say the phrase in her own time, and got her saying it a couple different times and used the take that they liked. So, yeah, it is this weirdly sort of like low-key performance. Right. And I wonder, because they do have the youngest son of the Dunphys, right? Like Claire and Phil. That's Julie Bowen and Ty Burrell. They have 3 kids, and their youngest is a boy. And he's got a little bit of that, like, I'm a kid actor sort of delivery. But and sometimes Manny does, but Manny also has the runt of the litter thing going on. Like, he's a little bit older than I think he plays. And so, yeah, I don't know. We don't see them. It's 2012. We don't see that being the type of kid you want on television anymore, number one. But number two, this is a show that is just like, there's as many kids on this show as there are adults. Like, there's a whole, like, this is one of these shows where they all go to school together. You know what I mean? Like offset, or like on set, like, you know, when they're not on camera or whatever. But it's like a totally different vibe. I think they are allowed to kind of be kids and not be, gee, Willikers, the one who steals the show.
Well, and again, the faux documentary style. So you're going for naturalism and just in general, the whole sense of humor of this show, very 2012, very just, I don't know, there's a certain anticlimax to the jokes and just a certain thing that now that we're a little bit removed from it, you see like, oh yes, that 30 Rock style, you know, the Office style humor.
And as she ages, she becomes like, she's pretty quick-witted. Like, she's kind of, you know, always with the like sarcastic aside as she gets older. Because, you know, obviously this is the only one of the shows that is early days. Yeah, this is season 3. Yeah. Whereas all of our other shows, this was something that they did when they had the baby later in life and whatever. Not on this show. We've got 3 families. We can have kids coming and going. Like,
no. And this couple, even though they're not super young in life, they're young in their like marriage, I guess.
Right.
They're getting this kid. And so, yeah, the climax of this is going to be the wedding, where we find out that everybody, their formal wear has some sort of glowing electrical, you know, Starlight Express
right, all the
aspect
people in
to
this
it.
wedding. So the whole family, all 3 of the families, our main families in this show, are all there as guests at this wedding. And this is a wedding for people that we don't know. They're not like main people in the show. We'll never see them again. And so the wedding party is, again, it's a bunch of extras, like a bunch of people that don't speak and we'll never see them again. But the entire wedding party is decked out in these light up blue, obnoxious, even the groom and his groomsmen, they have light up blue ties. The bride in her wedding dress, she has the blue lights and the blue, like in her little flower crown, and her dress lights up in the bodice. It's like so tacky.
It's like a science fiction movie, like in The World's End or the movie Knowing or any other number of movies where it's like a human alien character that looks like a person but has glowing blue light inside them. And so when they open their mouths or their eyes or something, or you can see it glowing inside their chest sometimes.
Their servos.
It looks like that kind of thing. And so Lily is doing her flower girl duties, right? And that all goes fine, but Cameron starts crying. Why does he start crying?
It's a wedding. So she's standing up there. Yeah, she's standing up there with the bridesmaids, as the flower girl does oftentimes. Sometimes they have them sit back with their parents. But in this case, she was standing up there with the wedding party. And as the bride comes down the aisle, Cameron starts getting choked up. And as he turns back to face the front, because the bride has now been given away, and they're about to start the ceremony, he's getting all choked up. And we get this shot of Lily looking at him, like just staring at him like she's worried. And Mitchell turns to Cameron and he's like, "You've got to stop crying. Look at Lily. She's going to say it. She's going to try and cheer you up. Stop right now." And he's like, "She doesn't even notice me. It's fine. Look, Lily, look, Daddy's fine. Daddy's fine." And she like just blurts it out as loud as she can in the middle of the wedding.
Yeah.
And says it like a couple of times. She's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And the bride and the whole wedding party is aghast. The whole family and everybody in attendance at the wedding is cracking up. Yeah. So then when they all laugh, she says it more. I mean, it's like it's hilarious. Everybody is, and Cameron gets up and grabs her and runs out of the church.
Yeah, but it comes off as a happy moment, right?
Oh, yeah,
it's
supposed very to be funny.
It's like tense for a second, and then everyone starts laughing, and it's fine. And
right,
like
well, except for the bride and the bride and groom who were like aghast and all pissed off.
They were.
No,
yeah, okay.
Everybody in the audience was laughing. Like everybody, all the family, like the families that we know from the show, and all the other extras that are sitting in the audience of this wedding, they're all cracking up. And some of the wedding party are cracking up, but the bride and the groom are not. And so Karen runs up and he's like, I'm so sorry, and grabs her and runs out.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I'll say again, like this one, it's funny in a way, it reminds me of like the older ones, like the Dick Van Dyke ones, where the little kid is just sort of slotted in there. Like she's very good and she's very funny, but there is something about it that like they don't hang as much on her as the ones we talked about in the middle. Yeah.
But I love that. I love that they, like, the reason I think Modern Family is so successful is they let the kids actually grow up. They let like we were talking about before with Full House, you got good performances out of these kids because you kind of let them, like, you created a family on the set. You let them be kids. Now, we talked a little bit about the Olsen twins and all the craziness and everything that, like, kind of led to them being like, no, thank you, show business. But a lot of that wasn't because of Full House. That was all these other movies and a million other things that they were doing. And the creeps
making countdowns till their 18th birthday and all that.
And all
bullshit.
of that stuff. I mean, look, the kids are still going to have to deal with that. Anybody, any female in Hollywood, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, so it's funny. This is not a story trope like most of our podcasts. This is more of like a behind the scenes trope. And yet you can see in these shows, what sort of ties them all together are because we're talking about not necessarily these kids' first appearances. In some cases we are, but we picked episodes that foregrounded them so that we could, get a taste of what they were like. And so what you're really seeing, the trope is the stories that you can do with a, 4 to 6 year old kid.
Yeah.
Right. So, with Modern Family, you have a little kid saying a curse word and trying to avoid that. Right. With Step by Step, you have a little kid
learning
spreading the word about
life.
sex.
That's right.
And having to deal with the fallout about that. Yeah. And then, with Family Ties, you have like the issues that, with the school again. Well, what do you do when, you've got your crazy Republican kid has issues with how the schooling goes?
Yeah, I think to me, the crux of the Family Ties episode is more just the parents, Steve and Elise, kind of realizing that they've been raising their youngest by committee, and while they very much appreciate all the help and all that their older children have been giving, that there are certain things where they are the parents. And this line with Alex, they've been dancing since I think like the second season. I mean, there's a great episode in the second season where Alex just like stops listening to his mom because he's like, I'm 18 and I don't have to do what you say anymore. And we don't get the while you're under my house, you'll live by my rules kind of a conversation. She lets him go and lets him disrespect her and make all these mistakes. And then she, goes and pulls him by the ear out of this bar that he's gone to across state lines or something and is like, because I'm your mother and I'm going to embarrass you when you make stupid decisions. Get your ass home. And so like they play with that all the time on Family Ties of like Alex thinking he's more grown than he is. And now we have this opportunity for him to be like, you guys, he even said to them, he's like, you guys, you have Mallory and Jennifer. They were all of your own making. Let me have Andy. Andy's mine. And they're like, no, he's your brother. We're his parents.
Yeah, well, and you see also just the continued foregrounding of him where, that beginning shot of the kid walking in dressed exactly like Alex with the briefcase, like that's going to be what you show on the commercial this week on Family Ties. And then the last moment of the episode is the kid hugging and saying Alex loves me.
Yeah.
And so again, it's that like that kindergarten cop thing of, we the Republican with a heart of gold, with that's what we really want to see now is Alex's icy, mentality being melted by this this cute kid.
Yeah. Well, and I thought they were going to have a little funny little payoff moment in that last bit, because earlier in the episode, the director of the preschool program, when she was talking to Alex, was saying, oh yeah, he says Alex loves me so much, it's almost like someone pays him. Yeah. And they took a close-up shot of Michael J. Fox's face kind of looking like, you know, the cat who ate the cream, like he got caught. And so then at the end, they were having this like one-on-one conversation, Alex and Andy together, and he goes, you know, Alex loves me in his unintelligible way, and Alex picks him up and is like, you know I do, bud, or whatever. And I was like, no, man, this is like where you make that joke pay off and you hand him a fucking quarter or something.
Yeah, but it is like, that is the one, like we were saying, that does depend on him the least, whereas Chrissie, Lily, and Lily, all to different extents, it just sort of supports the hypothesis we were saying from the beginning. You have to age them up so that they can do things. Right. And they do. Like, they all, what they do and say impacts the story in a way that you couldn't do with a 2-year-old on the set.
Yes.
So MVPs, any highs, lows, any overarching
absolutely.
thoughts?
Like, for the fun of the aged up kid and that whole thing actually working and being really great, Growing Pains, hands down. Chrissie Seaver, she's the only one who is kind of, you know, I mean, I'm going to say significantly, but it's only significantly because they're as young as they are. She is 7 playing a 5-year-old. The rest of these kids are 4 and 5 playing 4 and 5-year-olds. So yeah, Chrissie Seaver, hands down, MVP. She carried that whole episode. She's charming, she's funny, she hits all her marks, and she does it without being like the obnoxious kid. So I really appreciated that. And then just for like watchability's sake, because it's a great show, Modern Family. Yeah,
and this is our first time getting to talk about Modern Family, which I never really watched. And yeah, it was fun for that. I've seen a few episodes here and there. I think, look, here's my pitch for Growing Pains, right? Maggie Seaver, the mom, excellent. She's in. Jason Seaver, the dad, excellent. He's in. This new girl, Chrissie, we like her. I say, you know, I'm on record, my thoughts on Kirk Cameron and his whole performance as Mike Seaver. I think he works better as Ike the Mouse. I think with his voice permanently up in that weird register, that is more the energy he's suited for. So I say Mike, you know, goes off to college, gets hit by a bus, whatever. I think we bring in Ike the Mouse as a full-time cast member, like Snuffy on Sesame Street. It turns out he wasn't imaginary. Everybody can see him now. And that is how you keep Kirk Cameron on the show. And I think that's a much more appealing job for everybody.
Oh, man. I hard disagree on the Kirk Cameron of it all. He was such a heartthrob. And it was the disappointment I had in Kirk Cameron was his hard right turn later on.
Yeah, of course.
That is what it is. But look, I think early days of Growing Pains, we haven't watched a lot of that. And I think you need to temper your frustration with Kirk Cameron, especially, until you see the more like charming young him.
I'm skeptical. I think young Ben Seavers got a chance for me because he was like really young, but Kirk Cameron, he was still like 15, 16 when they started. And yeah, he was still talking like this, Dad. What, am I supposed to study for homework and go out with the guys?
Gosh, you're just really mean to kids going through puberty.
He's still going through puberty now. You watch his weird right-wing videos on YouTube and he still talks like that. Yeah, I think despite everything I'm saying, I do think Growing Pains is probably the best. I think
there's enough talent to balance out the annoying.
Yeah, the Chrissie is really fun, but then again, Lily on Step by Step is really fun. These were all good. This was a really solid lineup,
and this was one of these great kind of sitcom tropes that when we tell people, we do a podcast about TV sitcoms and all the funny funky stories that get repeated over and over again, people always mention, are you going to do something about how the fact that they just like age overnight? And yes, we will, because it's a funny thing, but I hold fast to my conviction that it is something charming about sitcoms, not something to be like, oh God, who cares about the continuity? Grumpy old Jay who doesn't want Santa Claus or kids to grow up can say all he likes about continuity.
Yeah, there you have it. So much for the rapidly aging children. What are we talking about next week?
Next week, we are rebooting the 90s. So, you think you like our show? Well, 30 years from now, there'll be a sitcom study, and that's the kind of thing we're watching next week. We're going to watch Girl Meets World, Season 1, Episode 1, Girl Meets World, Fuller House, Season 1, Episode 1, our very first show again, and for the very first time on our podcast, an hour-long drama. A not sitcom, Bel-Air, the gritty reboot of Season 1, Episode 1, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Dreams and Nightmares.
Yeah, now I'm just obsessed with, like, is there an actor that's, like, 15 now that's going to play me in the reboot of the sitcom study 30 years from now?
It'll be called the Sitcom Study, and they'll talk about us.
Yeah, anyway, the 90s reboots are next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the Sitcom Study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.